Okay, in today's video we're just going to look at factorizing and some of the different methods of factorizing that are required on your junior cert syllabus. So the first thing with factorizing we're going to look at is the word itself. And we know from both first year and primary school what the word factor means. Factor is something that divides evenly into another number. So for example, if I asked you to find the factors of 12, you would list all the numbers that divide evenly into 12. So it would have been 1 goes in evenly, 2 divides into 12, 3 divides in, 4 divides in, 5 does not divide in evenly. You would have 2 remainder 2. Because there's a remainder, 5 would not be a factor, and the last 2 factors would be 6, because 6 divides in 2 times. And don't forget that the number 12 divides evenly into itself 1. So with factors, they're usually quite good. People have to remember that all numbers are a factor of themselves in 1. A number that has 2 factors is called a prime number. On top of factors, you would have seen the highest common factor, where you would have to get the factors of 2 numbers, and whichever factor was common to both lists, that would be our highest common factor. Another element that we're going to look at before we look at our second year factorizing is what terms mean. So if I had said 2 terms in an expression, it'd be 3x plus 4y. That would be an example of 2 terms. If I had said 5xy, that would be 1 term, plus 8y, that would be a second term, minus 12. Although 12 minus 12 doesn't have a variable, an x or a y, it does class as a term. So be careful of how many terms we are looking at when we are factorizing. The last one we had, x squared will be 1 term, y squared is the second term, plus 4y is the third term, and 8x is the last term. So the foundation of all factorizing is to know how to get a HCF, which is the highest common factor, and a common variable. So if there's a letter that is common to both terms, that's what we'll be doing to factorize. So looking at the first question, 8xy minus 20x, the question is, what's the highest common factor? HCF of 8 and 20, which will be 4. Do we have a term or a variable? We do, x. So we'll have 4x outside the brackets, and whatever divides evenly in, so 4x goes into 8xy. First of all, we divide the numbers. 4 goes into 8 2 times. The x would cancel, you're left with 2y. Then the second one, minus 20 divides into, 4x divides into minus 20, x minus 5 times. The x's will cancel. Okay, that's the first one. The second one also here is 5ab minus 50a squared. So clearly the highest common factor you should be able to spot straight away is 5. So we'll take the 5 outside the bracket. Then we ask ourselves, what's the common variable? So you can see there's an ab in the first term and an a squared in the second term. So you could rewrite it 50ab minus 50 a squared, rub that out, is the same as a times a. Okay, so when we take out our common 5, we also notice we have an a left over, so we can cancel the a, and the first term, 5ab and 5a, the only thing left over is b, and 5a divides into minus 50 a squared, minus 50 into 10 is minus 10, and you're left with an a that is left over. Okay, that's the first method of factorizing. The second method we're going to look at, okay, is where there's 4 terms and we factorize by grouping. So you can see in this case ax minus ay plus bx minus by. Yes, there is terms there's an A and an A, but there's not a term that goes into all four. There's an X and an X, but because we don't have terms that go into all four, we need to use what's called factorize by grouping. That simply involves, we look at two terms, we find what's common, we factorize those two, and then we factorize the remaining two. Most of the question, all the questions in the junior should have four terms. So, like what we did earlier on, there is no highest common factor to worry about. So if A bracket, we're left with x minus y plus third and fourth term, we've got a common B by x minus y. How you know you're correct? Okay, a little bit of a self-check is that what's in the first bracket and what's in the second bracket should be the same. To finish this question off, we need to have two brackets and what was our common bracket we will call our x minus y becomes one of the brackets. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, I'm just putting it in as a second. You could put it in as a first. And what will be the first term, first bracket should I say, will be A plus B. Be very careful with your signs. A plus B. Okay, so that's pretty much factorized by grouping. Going to do a second example. Going to do one where you will actually have to involve not just common variable but the highest common factor as well, and I've changed it around a bit to be cautious of our negative numbers. Okay, with factorizing it's okay, but you do have to show a solid understanding of negative numbers in order to get your full marks. So first we have is 4xy minus 6x. I would recommend, right, we've got common x and the highest common factor of 4 and 6 is 2. So we'll say 2x bracket, 2x goes into 4xy 2y times, and 2x goes into minus 6x minus 3 times. Okay. Same again, so we're looking at the third and the fourth. Okay. And we are looking at, we need to have the first bracket the same as the second bracket. So we need to have a plus 2y and a minus 3. So what we're looking at, what's the highest common factor of 10 and 15? We will see that it's 5. I'm not putting the sign in here at the moment. You'll see that y in a moment. If I was to say plus 5, I would have, I'm going to do it in orange, minus 2y plus 3, which will be incorrect because the two brackets aren't the same. What you need to do here is to make sure that the common variable, in this case, is going to be a minus. So we'll have minus 5 goes into minus 10y 2y times. Minus 5 divides into 15. 15 divided by minus 5 is minus 3. So you can see how there's a good understanding of factors, of negative numbers needed.